to another episode of TEDxMellenStreet Live. I'm your host and curator, Sacha Walton, and I am back with another phenomenal speaker who is going to be on a TEDx stage at TEDxMellenStreet, Hampton, Virginia, at the historic American Theater on November the 18th. I'm all tongue-tied and all that good stuff, but they'll be gone by the time I bring up Charleene. So anyway, thank you so much for being here and watching all of our episodes, you guys. Thank you so much for supporting our speakers. We have 19 of them, and they're all phenomenal, and I just love being able to highlight them on this show. And first, before I bring up Charleene, I want to say thank you to our sponsor, Connect the Compass. The founder is Tanya Fields, and they're doing amazing things out here in the STEM community for minority women and men. And so, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring up Charleene. Hi, how are you?
I am so great. It's so good to see you, and it's wonderful to be here with you and everybody today. So thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. And I'm so excited having you on the show as well. One of the things that we went through the process of selecting speakers and the auditions, and I know your audition came up and you were just like this ball of energy and light and everything. So I was just like, you know what? I just love your spirit and everything about you. And yeah, the energy that you bring. So I'm so excited about this conversation today with you.
Well, I appreciate the kind words. It's always nice to be able to reflect back that which is in front of me. So you were probably just seeing a lot of your own sparkle too. We all get to shine in our own ways, right?
Definitely. So thank you for that as well. So,
yeah.
I've got a glimpse of who you are, kind of picturing a little bit, but I want you to tell the world and everyone that's watching and listening, who is Charleene Closshey?
Oh, wow. It's really interesting because if I put on, depending on what hat I put on, you'll get a different answer. But to me, the truth of who I or anyone really is pure limitless potential. And it's what is it that we choose to be in any given moment. And the life path that I've led that has brought me to this particular moment has led me down a lot of really fun, a lot of fun roads and a lot of opportunities to connect with people in ways that really involve creativity and the arts. So I'm an artist. When I was 2 years old, I started playing piano. My parents quickly realized, put the kid in music lessons. And so they did. So I read music before I could read words. Oh, wow. And most of my life, all of my life has really been concentrated around music. And now I'm shifting and really taking this love of learning. I'm classically trained in multiple instruments. My first career is actually a professional violinist. I performed on Broadway. I've been in films. I have albums, all that kind of good stuff. We have a Billboard Top 40 radio hit that comes out at the holiday season, actually around the world. So, so there's been a lot of that. But really, what am working to shift into is actually the culmination of. I have a floating friend here, a little fuzz floating friend, is the culmination of the study of sound. Because there's so much that we're beginning to tap into and understanding that everything is frequency. So that used to be a really far out kind of, no, what do you mean everything is frequency? What do you mean I could put my hand through the wall technically? Well, science is showing from a quantum perspective that that's absolutely true. And the mainstream understanding is like, oh yeah, everything does have a vibe. Everything is connected. And science is really catching up with these truths that we know and we've known for a very long time. Yeah. And so I like to, we're working on with a lot of different projects that are allowing us to be kind of at the front and center of some of these new research that's coming out, being able to apply it not only into sound, but back into popular music and how to make that accessible. What is this frequency? What does that even mean? How do I feel better? How do I transition my body into a more balanced state? All these things and more are possible with sound. So I'm limitless potential and I really like vibration.
Awesome. I mean, I love it when you start off with, you are limitless potential. If we really think about that in every capacity of our lives, like how much more, greater we are, we just be more courageous and just jump into the things that we learn and do and everything and experiences around us. So I love that. And just being vibrational, like you said, everything is a vibe. Like you're a whole vibe in yourself,
Totally.
thinking about, and it's like our, urban slang or whatever you want to call it. But when you think about just being that vibe, it's like everything that your essence of who you are, how it, permeates from you and everything. And then in that it connects. So just the simplicity of even that analogy, you can understand how well, the vibrations do, move along from person to person, thing to thing, and so forth. So that's amazing. So you are classically trained, been in music since birth almost.
Literally. Actually, truly since birth. My mother, the supposition why I love music so much is that my mother, who's a very type A personality, the doctors were like, okay, you need to chill. And so she's like, okay, fine, I'll learn piano because she would be seated. So the whole pregnancy, she learned piano. So literally, as soon as I started crawling, I crawled to the piano, pulled myself up and started tapping on the notes. So actually, you were very right.
Awesome. I'm visualizing that. I was like, okay, yeah, you said, oh, that's the sound I heard in the womb. Like, okay, now I know.
Right? The power of sound.
But once again, that goes back to what you just said, the frequencies, the vibrations. I never thought about it like that. When you think about mothers reading to their children while they're pregnant, and how that could sound from within. Like I love floating in water. And I love being able to submerge my ears underwater and hear the tones. And it's so soothing to me. And something like that, we just like, oh, I just like doing it. But when you think on it on a deeper level, it's the same thing as like as a, baby in your mother's womb and how you hear in an echoish type, like a tunnel sound type of thing. So, yeah. So you're classically, I can kind of go on with you like on this part the whole time. We're going to keep moving on though. But classically trained. So how did you really get, like, where did the desire come from to want to say, you know what, here's music, here's life, let's go into a little deeper in understanding how this play a part on a quantum level?
So I've always been a bit of a polymath. I love to learn. Definitely a lifelong learner. In fact, I'm actually working on my doctorate right now. I'm working on a PhD in natural medicine, focusing the research on frequency. So it's something that's been very important to me. And a lot of it kind of shifted, this desire to sort of move out of a purely, the pure realm of artistry in a popular setting into more of a, okay, now how do we actually, what can we do with this? How do we unlock this? Actually came about because of my father. My father, several years ago, he started developing some significant health problems. And so that started me deep diving into a subject that I was already very familiar with, but then I'm starting to fuse out into other aspects, everything from esoteric mystery school type of teachings, and then balancing that in the quantum realm, because I'm like, well, this feels right. There's something about this kind of magic that can't be explained. How do I back the magic with science? And right now we're at a point where, especially with some of the latest developments that have come out, especially in the quantum field and the quantum work, is that we're balancing that. Now there'll always be magic, right? We have to, but the magic is what leads science. So being able to move through both worlds is a bit of it's fun. It's a fun expression. And, I stepped into that because I wanted to help my dad. And sadly, he transitioned in January, and but I know he's going to be there in spirit on November 18th at the MellenStreet. So, but I think we all have. I think adversity is something that always brings us back to a more truthful aspect of our own reality. And what is it that we are to do here? Because if we are to think that life is a game, how do we want to show up and play the game? Do we want to show up as oh, well, all these things are happening and I have to be reactive? That's one way to play the game. Oh, all of these things are happening. I wonder if I can make some of these other things happen. That's another way to play the game. And an infinite amount of other ways to approach it. So adversity sometimes can be such a bittersweet sort of friend.
Yeah, wow, wonderful. Like that's the one. First, I want to say condolences,
Oh, thank
about your
you.
father. And like you said, definitely he'll be there. And November 18th. And I feel like that hype just hit it. Like, okay, that's your dad. You step on the scene, okay.
Yeah, he'd be like, "That's
But
my dad."
but yeah, so and you're right, that adversity, because like sometimes we see people hit their ultimate high
Mhm.
from an adversity.
Yes.
It's almost like that adversity became that pathway and pushed them to something greater, and it pushed so
Mhm.
much out of them. And
Mhm.
and I think we can say, I've had in my own life, and whoever's watching is probably say, oh yeah, I've been there too. That makes sense. And so and to say that now you're diving into a whole nother, like, realm,
World.
yeah,
Yeah.
world, and around. And just a disclaimer, we're not talking about Marvel. I'm a Marvel fan. So it's like, we're not talking about Ant-Man and Wasp in the quantum realm, you guys. No,
No,
no.
this is
We watch
legit science.
the movie after the video, right? But but the thing is, it's like when you think about all these different things in the scientific world, in the advancements that are coming out of it, we hear more of quantum theory, quantum realm,
Mhm.
quantum, what it's like, quantum everything,
Yeah.
and it's like coming into that. So in your explanation, so let's say somebody is watching this video and they're like, okay, well, if you're not talking about Marvel and the quantum realm, what are you really talking about? So let's break down, like, what is quantum anyway?
Yeah, so quantum, think of it as kind of like the next step.
Mhm.
So from the physics perspective, we like to break down quantum mechanics, which is the microcosm. So like all the little tiny ways in which the world works, and then up into this cosmic relativity, Einstein,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
How planets and worlds and universes and black holes, how that all fits together. So
Mhm.
the macrocosm. And what we've been trying to do, but what has been trying to occur over the past many decades is to find the working balance between these two understandings. So one will have a theory that works in one side, but maybe not as much in the other, and vice versa.
Mhm.
Well, something really cool has just transpired. And earlier this year, there is a paper that was published that has mind-blowing mathematics that has actually found this, what's called zero-point gravity. It's a zero-point effect between the macro and the microcosmic worlds, and
Mhm.
how we actually can define and understand
Yeah.
in truth what's happening. Because we know that the entire universe, we know everything,
Mhm.
life, you,
Mhm.
me, we're a
Yeah.
series of patterns that are just repeating. And it's
Mm.
when we can unlock these patterns that suddenly we can unlock how this organism,
Yeah.
this whatever it is that we're looking at, how that works. So that's
Mm.
kind of a bit of an easier way to sort of break down this very almost lofty sounding idea of quantum physics. But the reality is that that's really what it is that how do we explain the innermost and outermost workings
Yeah.
of a system or an object?
Wow. That's so deep. That's very deep.
And
And
the cool thing is that it does involve things like holograms and quantum, time traveling. That'll be in the future. But like all these other types of things, they're all subjects in it. So
yeah.
our Marvel folks, you're not off. And like I said, remember you have the imagination.
Mhm.
What we call magic is just science that has not yet been figured out. It's all
Mm.
related. If we can imagine it, we can actualize it too. We just have to find the balance between those.
Yeah, yeah. And one of our other speakers, I had another episode with one of our speakers, James Gray Robinson. He's on, I think y'all need to meet. Like you're on your wave. He's on this wave because of the whole process of the brain.
Yes.
And as you're talking about the quantum part, and like even when we think about it in ourselves and how that can be broken down even more, it's
Mhm.
like getting into the minimal, the smallest details of who we are, what makes us intricate in the ways that we are. And he focuses in on the brain and separating the mind from the brain, and all the
Yes.
dynamics that comes with that. And I'm very so fascinated because it makes sense. It makes sense to those who can say you have to open up your mind to understand. You
Well,
know,
neuroscience is a study of brain waves, right? And what's a wave? It's a vibration. a vibration in certain octaves is a sound. It's all
sound.
connected. We're actually using sound to generate desired brain waves.
Yeah.
I mean, there's amazing study that's going on in neuroscience right now. So yeah, Gray's,
that's awesome.
Good stuff.
Yeah. And then when you think about it, we have to use the waves and the octave waves even here, because it takes the sound to bounce off the eardrum in order to create what we hear. And even when we talk, our vocal cords is a vibration. So I'm sorry, I can go deep with that, but I'm going to come back to the surface for everybody. Okay. So we're not going to get lost. I mean, because really, it can be that way. And I can understand how, that applies when you think about the whole quantum everything and how you apply it to your life. And then not only that, but even with your thoughts, come back to the brain, when your thoughts become things, because it's the vibrational verbalization of it through your voice and how you speak and the words that come forth. I really just say all of that. Okay.
That was awesome.
You're bringing some things out of me. Okay. Wow.
Channel it, girl, go.
I'm back.
So good.
This is Sacha Walton, the host and curator of TEDxMellenStreet Live, you guys. I told you I was excited to have this conversation with Charleene. Yeah, I was excited with James too. I was like, okay, that gives me y'all giving me my card to say, okay, Sacha, you can release that side of you. Okay.
Yes. It's innate to everyone. It's just how much we turn it on at any given moment of any given day.
That's it.
It's like any given Sunday, just quantum.
Exactly.
Quantum. I mean, you could break it down. Football's quantum.
Football's, oh gosh, that's a whole nother level there.
There you go. That's another episode.
Exactly. So let's break down some more quantums of your life. And so you have some amazing things going on. So like, what's next for you? I've heard you got conference, courses, like books. Tell me about it.
Yeah, we're staying really busy, which is a good way to be. So we've got a conference coming up this upcoming week where we're introducing some of our new sound healing technology. And I use sound healing really because it's the current vernacular, but really what feels better to all of us, especially our science friends, or it's sound therapy. Because see, healing is up to each of the individual, which is again another topic. But the idea that we can create our own therapeutic anything. We can use our words as therapy, affirmations. We can use our brain as therapies, eliciting specific brainwave states that then affect the rest of our physiology. We can also specifically go to aspects of our own physiology and generate different types of cellular balance and a return to homeostasis. So I'm excited. We'll be presenting and sharing this upcoming week. I'm actually started working on my first book. Very exciting. It's talking about how to play crystal singing bowls. So what we're doing is that we've shifted the way that crystal singing bowls had originally functioned, which was typically in more of a sound healing space. And we're bringing in aspects of traditional Western music. So equal temperament, which just means that there's a balance between the specific notes so that we can line up tuning, kind of like what you would on a piano, all the white keys, all the black keys, and repeating those patterns. So we're bringing in these sounds into popular music. And what can we do with these particular sounds? The cool thing about crystal singing bowls, especially the ones that we play, because they're tuned, have the equal temperament, we can adjust their tuning. We can also adjust how they interact, which then we're finding, directly affects the effect on the physiology, which is really exciting. So we're doing research on that, and then also compiling a bit of a compendium on how to play crystal singing bowls rather than, strike, oh, gum, it feels good. How can we actively really bring what I'm calling the archetypes of sound to life in a way that's impactful. So that's exciting. And we also have a course that's coming up starts the end of November 28th. It's an online course. And this is really fun. This is where I'm very excited to share. It's combining total woo and total science. Which is my bag. It's on the Shift Network. The Shift Network is an online network that you can Google, and it connects with over 3 million people around the world. And there's all different types of learning, from the science of sound to ancient civilizations, etc. So lots of really fun stuff. And our course is connecting with the celestial sounds of healing. So we actually dive into listening to frequencies of archangels, which if we approach that idea from a very quantum perspective, all we're doing is that we're connecting to a pattern of frequencies that exist beyond our current level of hearing. Doesn't mean they're not there. I mean, there's frequencies around us all the time. How do you think you and I are having this conversation? We can't see them. We can't see the frequencies, and yet they're around us. And so being able to connect into a different dimension of frequency, and then experience it in a way that's really interesting in the body. And that class is also coupled with really deep dives into the science of acoustics. We have one of the world's leading acoustic physicists joining us, John Stewart Reed. We have Dr. Robert Gilbert, who comes on and with spiritual sciences. I mean, so it's a really very complex kind of course, and it's totally fun. It's 4 weeks, so it's short and sweet, but perfectly aligned for the holiday season. Because I mean, who doesn't want to listen to an angel?
Yeah. You know, and when you said that, I was thinking, I saw something, read something, I don't know how recent ago it was, but they were saying like with like the youth choir, like the boys choirs, like there's like certain kids that can hit an octave so high and so melodic that it is on that level of angels.
So there's this phenomenon in music. It's called the overtone series. It's a series of notes, and we'll actually talk about this in my TED Talk, but it's a series of notes that actually are vibrating at the same time we think we're hearing just one pitch. So as we're connecting into these overtone series, a lot of voices who have very what are called pure sounds, which means there's not much of a difference in these additional notes above the original fundamental tone. They speak very purely. Curiously enough, the crystal singing bowls are also carriers of very pure sounds. Children's voices, they frequently have a much more clear tone. And what that does is that it begins to impact our physiology in a different way. And it's almost like we begin to hear things above and beyond. Let's just put it that way.
Wow.
And so it's really, really beautiful. And yeah, the children's choirs are incredible. I had a beautiful opportunity to work with the Sophia Boys Choir a few years ago, and they recorded on one of our tracks. It's an original composition of Ave Maria. And then we actually went to Bulgaria and recorded a music video with them, but then also listened to them perform that on their Christmas Day concert that was televised. And so beautiful, so impactful. But the purity of these boys' voices, it moves you. And it doesn't matter what they're saying. It doesn't matter. It's not a religious thing. It is just a visceral response within the body. And that's very easy to connect into a spiritual place too, depending on how you view the world.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and I sit here and talk and, you know, and to kind of bring it surface level again. But, you know, I've been told, like, as I listen to you and I'm thinking about what I've been told, a lot of people will say, oh, your voice is so soothing. It's so calming. Like I could be on the phone with someone and talk, you know, we talking for hours. Next thing you know, I'm like, hello? Then I fell asleep. Not that it was boring, but it was like, you're so soothing. It's like, it takes me to a different place. So would you say, like, if anybody's in that same type of, I've heard that before, would you say that that's like on the same lines of what you're talking about today?
Yes, and it's interesting how much information the voice carries. So you can tell how a person is feeling just by listening to them.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's no different than when you walk into a room, you're like, oh, what an odd vibe this is. It normally feels like here, and now it's feeling like here, and I don't know how I feel about this versus this. The voice has the exact same construction. Everything's a series of patterns. It's just a function of tuning into those patterns. So, the voice can be very powerful, and it can also be used. You have to be really mindful of how you use your voice. Are you using it in a constructive way? Are you using it in a destructive way? You can also use it in a manipulative type of way. And that's all up to you. But it's also, I think, interestingly enough, I think it kind of calls all of us to be very aware of what we are listening to. You know, just having something going on, a television, the news going on in the background. What is that actually, what vibration is that bringing into your space? And you don't have to be aware of it because you're affected by it.
That's true.
And so, you know, those little tiny choices actually begin to add up in ways that sometimes when you don't even recognize what's going on until you stop, and then you reflect and you're like, wow, those were some really interesting choices I was making. You know, a couple of those don't work for me anymore. These do. But how do I move on from there? So again, it's all in how we use whatever it is that we're given.
Yeah.
And I don't know, there's something about life that I just, maybe it's because I'm an only child or like total type A, but I really feel like it's incumbent on all of us to choose how we're going to show up every day.
Yeah.
And every day we have that choice. Some days are better than others. No denying that.
Yeah.
But for all of the days that are challenging, can we make up for it with a good day of making a stronger choice? It may not be an easy choice in that moment for us, but does it help, contribute, expand the world in some way? Maybe. We just have to figure that out.
That's so true. That's so true. Wow. I see, guys, I told you how excited I was to have this conversation with Charlene. I mean, it is really, I'm just sitting here, I'm just thinking about so many more questions or so many more statements, but I know that I'm not going to keep you all day because I want you to reclaim the rest of your time for today and do the things you need to do too. And, but I just want to say this one thing, when we're thinking about, like you said, the voice and how you use it, or the music and things. And we think about it in terms of, just to kind of bring it back to layman's term again, even when you're in the stores, they play music when you're shopping, because if they play a certain music, you get lost in that sound and you're steady like, oh, I'm vibing. Okay. Oh yeah, I need that. And you've went off your list and you're putting more things. So it's like, there is that method. There's a method with it. And it's like, of course it's subliminal. It can be. And, in a way it's okay, well, this is how we're using to increase ourselves for these particular brands or anything. And it's like, we think about commercials. Most commercials have music. They have certain words, certain things. So it helps you to make those decisions and choices to say, okay, yeah, I'm going to buy that product. I think I want that. Or like I said, once again, you're lost in that sound. And it's
Sacha, and you're so right too. There's actually a science behind all of this. So as a composer, that's one of the things that you either figure out or you're kind of taught in a cursory kind of way. There's a thing, for instance, if you're composing a horror film score, it's actually called the fear frequency. It sits below our audible hearing range, but they'll pump it through speakers so that you can turn down the volume and you're still like, whoa, I'm looking at the picture and I'm still feeling something weird, because the volume doesn't matter, because the speakers are still resonating and you're still experiencing this fear frequency that's specifically designed to elicit that stimulation within your body that is not pleasant, that puts you on edge. There's a paranormal frequency, I believe it's 19 hertz, that, oh, if feel like a ghost is in the room. There's something eerie about that. So there's a lot of ways in which we are being guided in the vibrations that are coming towards us. Certain rhythms will emulate the heartbeat, and then that creates a certain set of patterns in the human behavioral environment, especially when you put it, like you were saying, in a shopping or any kind of place in which influence would benefit someone to have over another.
Yeah. Wow. So amazing. So amazing. So many examples, so many examples. And I'm just going to give this last one because like I said, just enjoy this conversation. Because there was the movie, The Nightsman, the very first Nightsman that came out, and they dealt with frequency to control people. And it was like a frequency that came through your phone, and it created rage. And, and I'm just like, we always hear things, oh, people can do this and do that. So, I mean, technically the science is out there for it. But, as I sit here and think about things like that, I'm thinking about the different examples. And that really brings me back to that movie, because they did use that in terms of creating havoc. And, so it is a true thing. And then when you talked about just that whole paranormal in the movies and stuff, and it's just like, how many times you can be in your own house and you can feel like, oh, something just felt like a vibrate, just something. And, but I think that also comes to your sensitivity to the levels of frequencies as well. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
And actually, the paranormal frequency was actually discovered by someone who walked into a room and it would consistently feel weird. And he was an acoustic scientist. And so he started studying, okay, what's going on in the room? And he broke it down. And he's the one who figured out the 19 hertz because there was some sort of vibration going on with the air conditioning handler that would generate every time it was on. He noticed, it's like, oh, it feels paranormal and it's cold.
Wow.
So very interesting that, yeah. But,
Yeah.
you know, and on the other side of that too, Sasha, if life is a series of patterns and all are connected and interrelated, just
Yeah.
because we got some wonky ones out there, we also have some really good ones. And it's how do we activate these really good ones in a meaningful way that can empower people like, you know what? I have a headache. I'd like to get rid of that headache.
Yeah.
What would help me? And knowing what frequencies or directing them towards specific music that would allow them to come back into balance. So it's, you know, and this is very exciting. And this is a world that I get to live in. So it's the next frontier. Albert Einstein said that the future of medicine will be the medicine of frequencies. And he was right about a lot of stuff. So
Yeah, definitely. And here we are. So, oh my gosh, it's so wonderful. But yeah, see you guys. This is why you have to be at TEDxMellenStreet on November the 18th
it's
at
going to be great.
Historic American Theater because we have Charleene Closshey with us. And, you know, and she will have her crystal bowls with her. And we'll play that as well. So we have her as a speaker and as an entertainer, you guys. So that's so phenomenal. And the uniqueness about our stage, we can have that person who's going to do both and include it in her speech. And so any final words of wisdom that you would like to share with the people?
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you for the opportunity. You know, just as a human being, since we're all that, I think, I'd just like to encourage you, whatever you're going through in any moment, no matter how great the challenge is, no matter how great the opportunity is, there's always a bigger nugget inside. So let me just high five you for all of the people who are showing up and doing your work. And let me encourage you for all of the people who feel like it's really hard to do this work, because you are making a difference and you do matter. And your presence in this world is what will change this world. And you may not see it on a global scale, but you'll feel it within you, because when you shift, that person beside you shifts as well. And that person besides them, and et cetera, et cetera. So you, by the very choice that you make every day, we all get to create our own ripple effect. So I just want to say high five for everybody rippling out there.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Ripple those waves, you guys.
Telling you.
Those waves. Oh, wow.
That's how we remember we're all connected.
Yeah. Yes. Wow. That's amazing. Charlene, thank you so much for being here today. I really enjoyed our conversation and I can't wait to meet you in person.
Yes.
Thank you for being, you know, one of the 19 speakers on the TEDxMellenStreet stage that's coming up on November the 18th, you guys, in Hampton, Virginia. And once again, I am your host, Sacha Walton, and curator of TEDxMellenStreet. I want to thank my sponsor, Connected Compass, founders, Tanya Fields, and they're doing amazing work in the STEM community for minority men and women. And until next time, you guys, we'll be back with another episode with another amazing speaker. Did you enjoy your day? Charlene, you have a wonderful day. Thank you again.
You as well. Be well, everybody. We'll see you at MellenStreet.
Yes, see you then. Bye, everybody.